We bought this abandoned and unloved bungalow 8 months ago now, and since then we've been trying to renovate and build it into our dream home. The plan is to add 2 dormers to the front of our bungalow to create space for a couple bedrooms and a couple bathrooms upstairs. And we're going to be adding a huge single-storey extension out the back. And this is going to house our kitchen diner area. It's fair to say this journey hasn't come without a few complications.
Is that a gas pipe, Has?
But I guess these problems are inevitable when you're trying to do all of the work yourselves as just a pair of relatively inexperienced 25-year-olds. We're about to show you every step of our journey over the last 8 months and talk to you about how much this whole project has cost us so far, which, considering we're doing almost all of the labour ourselves, it's a surprisingly high cost.
Wow, that's a lot.
Quite expensive.
This is also a good time to mention that throughout this whole video you might see a couple extra faces helping us out with some labour, and these people mostly include Alfie, Harry's childhood best friend who is working on the house with us a couple days a week, and Doug, our brother-in-law, who mucks in for a day every few weeks. So with that, let's get into the crazy last 8 months we've just had. So as for the current layout of this bungalow, it was very, very dated and old. We've got a living room on the left, a bedroom on the right, another bedroom behind that one which is a lot smaller. Then we've got a bathroom towards the back, which is again very, very dated, and then a kitchen which will soon become our utility room. And upstairs it is just one big room which will become 2 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. And as you can see, the roof of our house is absolutely massive. The pitch is really big, and so it is basically asking for 2 dormers right on the top of it.
So our first major job was to tackle this front driveway, front garden situation, because currently there's no parking and it is extremely derelict, and the garden had been left for over a decade, and there was a massive slope tilting down to the house. So this was our first major job. Thank God we had some motivated friends ready to help us.
You ready to go, Saji?
Yeah.
Feeling good?
Yeah.
Feeling fresh?
Yeah.
We started tackling the massive jungle that we currently had growing in the front garden. And once that was complete, it was time to rent out our first digger of the project. Now, for a little bit of perspective for you guys, a digger hire of this size is around £270 for a week, which isn't too bad, obviously plus the fuel and little bits and bobs. But embarrassingly, when we first rented this digger, we actually had to call the people we rented it from and ask, how do we turn this thing on? Now, that's not a very reassuring message to send the people renting the digger, but oh well. So our main goal for this parking area was to create 3 usable tiers. 1 for parking, 1 for turf, and 1 for a porch and patio area at the front door. These would all be held up by retaining brick walls. So we had to dig some foundations for these walls. This was a big first job. Now, the digger could only get us so far before we had to start hand digging these foundations. And for anyone that's done that before, you know that clay, when wet, is a sloppy mess.
Hang on, should we be selling this clay?
Do you want me to make a sculpture? I did it for A-level. I did it for AS level. I used to make such nice sculptures then.
Are you joking?
I'm not joking.
Turns out you definitely can't sell clay or make sculptures out of this stuff. So we ended up just using it to fill the skip or to take down to the back of the house where we will be using it later on as backfill. Now, because the clay was so wet and we were doing all of this work in about October time at this point, the trenches filled up super quick. We tried to empty them with buckets but ended up having to get a pump because they just kept refilling. It was now time to dig the second wall's foundations. And this is where we came across our first massive problem. Is that a gas pipe, Has?
I mean, there's something there. Yeah, I have hit it.
Leaking?
I can smell gas, I think.
Can confirm it was leaking. Not ideal when the concrete truck is turning up right now. A very stressful situation, but we managed to get our first concrete pour done for these foundations and for the top wall foundations in just a day. And on the note of backbreaking work, it was time to start bringing the bricks down for these brick retaining walls. Now, these are special bricks called hollow blocks. They're meant to be really strong. And this was the first point we went out and outsourced some labour with a bricklayer on a day rate and a labourer, just to make this process happen even quicker because we were gagging for some off-road parking. Now, there was still plenty of work for us to do around this bricklayer. I don't know if you can see Nikki, she's kind of filling in all of these holes with the concrete that we have hand knocked up. and then you put metal rebar through them, which basically makes the wall super structural.
Famous at the end of it then, Nick.
Oh, you will be, yeah.
I was doing a TikTok last night.
Are you?
It's fair to say Mick was enjoying his time on camera too. Now, if you guys are buying a house on a hill or on a slight slope, you have to get this point right, because it is holding back so much weight from the ground above. And a very important note is that you need to add in sufficient drainage. So we added in a French drain here, and that just basically takes all of the water that sinks to that level away, basically so it doesn't flip the wall over with the additional weight of the water. Very important point. But at this point, we're beginning to see the transformation happen. We've got the wall built, we can start to backfill it, and this is going to be our massive driveway section at the top by the road. And this was really starting to take shape as a driveway now. We built a sleeper return on one side to really box in this parking area, and it was starting to look kind of pucker at this point. This was the first transformation, and it'd been kind of like a good couple of weeks of work to get to this point, and we were feeling pretty rewarded. Get the whacker plate out, whack all of that MOT Type 1 down, and then just to try and get rid of a tree stump, which, easier said than done by the way. These tree grinders are great bits of kit, but it's physical work. We then knocked out the second wall down by the front of the house, which, when was built, these walls look pretty intimidating, pretty scary. They are going to get finished by us here with some sand and cement render. Now, the first coat that goes on, you just slap that coat on. It doesn't matter how it looks because you scratch it up anyway. That gives you a nice coarse surface to put your second finishing coat on top of. Now, this was our first real go at external rendering, and it could have gone better, but these walls we think are going to look rustic. That's what they're going to look. No wall is perfect. We didn't want it to be perfect. But this plasterer's float really cleans it up nicely, as you can see. And then after a sponge, I mean, they look passable as a decent wall. Once again, definitely not perfect, but we were happy with it. And these will get painted an off-white eventually. This just left us one more project out front, and that was to expand these existing stairs down to the front door.
You see the comments last week about your... Okay, people thought because you were wearing pink pants, people thought you had no boxes on.
With that aside, we cracked on with these steps. Now, because there was existing steps there already, all we had to do was strip them back and dig out the part on the left between the wall and the steps. After carefully throwing some bricks,
That was short.
we were almost ready to start laying them, which was very exciting because you can see how much more grand these steps look when you kind of widen them up. We don't want it to be kind of a precarious walk down to our front door. We want it to feel grand. That is the main aim for the front of the house here. So we cracked on with some bricklaying and did this ourselves this time. Alfie, our friend, is a decent little bricklayer, it turns out. I mean, we kind of did all the labouring and mucking around him. Hopefully here you can begin to see what the house looked like when we bought it, and then just a month or so later we'd made a lot of headway along the way. Like, there was definitely a work in progress still out here, but we'd made some really usable parking, and the vision is there. If you guys have a creative mind, you can probably see the vision we're on about. This is gonna look good. But time for the next project.
So the next project we cracked on with was the bathroom, and me and Harry were currently living at his mum's house, and we needed to move into this building site as soon as possible so that we could crack on with the work. And in order to live on site, we needed a working bathroom.
Hey, this is about to come off the back, look. Hey, this is off, just leave it there.
Okay, take that to the garage, take it to the garage. My heart is beating so fast. Oh my god!
So this obviously involved a lot of the demo work, which is probably the funnest and easiest part of the whole thing. We also took this window out of the back because the bathroom is so small that we wouldn't have been able to fit a shower where we needed it to fit unless this was blocked up. And this actually created quite a lot of controversy in the comments because a lot of people hate the idea of having no window in a bathroom. But for me and Harry, it was a very, very obvious thing to do because, funnily enough, we both grew up in family homes where the family bathroom had no window. So it didn't seem like a crazy idea to us. And of course, obviously, if it's ventilated, then there should be no qualms. So yeah, as you can see, we bricked up this window on both sides, and we got a lot of comments at the time saying, why have you not insulated the inside cavity? And that is because we are doing insulation on the outside of the house later on. Now it is time for tiling, and this is Alf's thing. If you ask Alfs what he is best at, he will say tiling, and he is bloody good at what he does. So we went for this marble effect on the floor, which I think is giving kind of high-end vibes. As you know, the last couple of weeks on site, it has been absolutely boiling for me and Harry. And what has been getting us through are these Y-Food ready-to-drink complete meals. As you guys know, Harry constantly bangs on about the vanilla flavour, and recently when we've had people over to our house, we have been putting all of our Y-Foods in our freezers, which is crazy. And once we get it out of the freezer, they are like ice pops, and we kind of like suckle them out, and they are perfect for this weather. Which brings me on to this summery flavour, which is the cherry one that they've got out at the moment. This is the one that I've been really enjoying recently. It's actually still got 27 grams of protein and 26 vitamins and minerals. So I know I'm keeping my body fueled throughout the day, and I'm not even thinking about it too much, and it's really, really enjoyable and delicious. And because we have been so busy at the moment, I keep mentioning about our burnout at the moment, but it is a thing. It's been perfect because we just grab these on the go. They are ready to drink, and it means no meal prep time, which is awesome, especially in the afternoons when we're getting a little bit hungry. So if you are interested and you're a new customer of Y-Food, then you can use the link in the description below and get 20% off. But hurry, because that is only valid for 7 days. And if you are a returning customer, you still get a whopping 10% off. Just use the link in our description. Anyway, we're gonna go drink one of these, and we'll see you in a little bit.
Right, let's mark out how big this shower's going to be and then go from there, shall we?
And then we went on to working out where all of our things were going to be in this bathroom. Once we worked that out, we were able to cut out and chase all of where the pipes were going to go. That included the pipes for the shower, the sink basin, and the radiators. And then obviously we made sure it was all level. We also needed to do 4 spotlights in this bathroom, so we drilled them out and then basically waited for the plasterer to come to plaster the ceiling and the 2 walls that weren't going to be tiled. And once he'd done that, we were able to crack on with the tiling on these 2 walls. And by we, I mean Harry and Alfs. And because this is Alf's thing, Harry was labouring for him, and Alfs was the big man doing all the tiling work.
Mate, are you like, I feel like an abused like dog, but like I love it when I get praise from you. You're like, well done. I'm like, well, Daddy said I did good.
And the sort of relationship they have whilst doing this honestly cracks me up. Now, tiling is something that me and Harry have done before in a past project, but it was something we absolutely hated. So we are so lucky that Alf's here really enjoys tiling and is bloody good at it too. Then we went on to grouting all of the tiles. We went for the same colour on both different tiles, and it was kind of a light grey colour, basically just to fit in with the theme. Then our plumber Tom came in and he plumbed in the toilet and the shower, which we were very overexcited about.
Toilet's flushing. I've never been so excited in my life.
And then we finished off popping the shower in. And then we realised we actually needed to paint the walls, and we painted it with sort of a bathroom paint. And then we put in this beautiful vanity unit from Easy Bathrooms, and it comes with a marble quartz top, which is awesome. And this is the mirror we went for too.
This is exactly how we wanted the bathroom to be.
Now this bathroom is still unfinished to this day because we just basically wanted to put in what we needed, a working toilet and a working shower. So don't judge it because it doesn't look much better than what it originally started out as. But I assure you, by the time we have finished and actually got lights in there and got all of the accessories and everything else we need, it is going to look awesome. So you're just going to have to subscribe and stick around to see what it really ends up looking like. And now it is time to move on to this other project, which is this seriously overgrown back garden. As you can see, there were nettles everywhere and a ton of trees and bushes and foliage. So we got started on trimming this all down and making it a little bit more bearable. And the reason we were kind of doing this now is because we had a little bit of time to kill because we were waiting for the planning permission to come through for our big extension that we had going on at the back of the house. And clearing all of this also helped us kind of understand the space that we had to work with at the back of our house too. And when I say this garden's very big and it goes on forever, I'm not kidding. It is on a 1/4 acre plot, and we had 2 hidden greenhouses we didn't even know were there. So we needed to get rid of those, and we also got rid of 3 wooden sheds and a whole lot of bushes here, which we got some tree surgeons in to do, and they absolutely smashed it. And now that they took all of those bushes and tree foliage away from the middle of the garden, we could now see kind of the second tier going down, and we could trim all of that too. So this is what it looked like before we did that little bit of trimming, and this is what it looked like after. And on the drone shots you can see here where all of those bushes and foliage were that were dividing the garden, and now all of that stuff is gone. And it means we can get going with the extension as soon as that planning gets through.
Planning permission has come back, and we can't believe we're about to say this, but our planning permission's been accepted! As you could tell, we were pretty excited about this news because it meant we could start our rear single-story kitchen diner extension, which is being shown by us here. This is where it's going to go out the back of the house. And here's a rough render of what it's going to look like. Obviously, this is all very rough, but you get the idea of the space that we are creating. It is about an 8 by 5 meter extension, so for that you need a lot of blocks. And a motivational team talk.
Saj and Doug.
Yeah.
Your main strategy for the start is, I reckon, these sandbags.
But also we're not in a massive rush. We're all about safety here today.
Yeah, obviously, yeah. Safety
And happiness.
Honestly, thank God we had so many friends to help us move all of these blocks and sand down to the rear of our house, because without it we would have been in massive trouble. Just for a bit of perspective for you, the cost of all of these blocks for our 8 by 5 meter extension was £1,924, which I think is pretty cheap considering. For a bit of perspective for you on what this room is actually going to be, it's going to be our kitchen diner, which, as you guys know, is the heart of the home these days. It's hopefully going to have enough room for a beautiful kitchen up one end, and then a living area down the bottom, fit with bifolds on the back. It should be amazing if we can get it right. Our first problem really came when we needed to get a digger to the back of our house, and we had no access. I mean, we had a few options of going down the side passage of the house, but that was really steep and there were tree stumps in the way. The other option was to crane the digger over the top of the house, but because of these overhead lines, that was a no-go too. So our final option was to go through the garage. Now, this did mean taking a hole out of the back of the garage, which, when we were successful, we were pretty chuffed about. So we were pretty stressed about building this ramp. But we just thought we'd do it the way we knew how, and that was out of sleepers and then just putting a hell of a load of crush and rubble in there, which we got delivered. And that was a good day's work in itself. But it was now time for the moment of truth. Can we get the digger down the ramp safely without tipping? After starting off with a wobble, we got it down fine.
Who's that stallion on a horse?
So it's officially time to start setting out our extension. And then breaking ground on the extension, which is a huge day.
1.8 is there.
Alright, so I'm not far off. Hell, man.
About 20 off. Serious over.
So day one, we dug a whole line of the extension, just to come out the next day to this.
You might be able to see that the trench behind us here, overnight, has caved in, which is so annoying.
This did have quite a simple solution though, luckily for us, and that was just to use something called shuttering, which is when you kind of build a frame to stop it from caving in again.
Renovation.
He has kept.
Well, I haven't fully checked.
Oh, there you go.
Come on, Nick, attack it! Attack it!
We were flying through the foundations at this point, but unfortunately we didn't inform our friends what we were getting them into.
Did you know what you had in store for today when we texted you saying come over?
You think I was expecting this? Absolutely not.
You probably should have said. Now we're in.
Just slide now.
Oh, that is
Like a
satisfying.
glove.
With the foundations dug, it was time for the concrete pour. Now, for a bit of perspective for you guys, this concrete pour was done 3 days before Christmas, so it was freezing cold and we just really wanted to get it done. The reason you can see us here building a retaining wall in the back garden is because we needed to get rid of all of this spoiled clay that had come out from digging the foundations. So we dug a wall a bit further back down the hill so that we had a nice area to fill with all of this clay. Because getting it back to the front of the property would have been a hell of a lot of work. And it means we can tear off our garden nicely. So a winner all round really here.
Today is the day we officially start block laying our extension.
This is where the extension got exciting and it was time to lay blocks, as you just heard. We started knocking up some muck and invited our old bricklayer Mick round, who helped us do the front walls, and he started teaching us how to set out and how to really lay bricks efficiently and properly. So you have to do a few courses, as you can see us doing here, on the inside and outside skin to get to the level where your floor joists run in. This is below the damp proof course, so it all is done out of concrete blocks. Now from here you put your floor joists in, put your damp proof course on, and you can start laying the inside skin in something called thermalite blocks.
I've officially been promoted to being back on the trowel and block laying.
Now, what these blocks are is they're basically lighter than concrete blocks, these Thermalite blocks, and they're just so much easier to lay, and they have better insulation properties. So we got rolling with them, and we were flying through them. Bricklaying technique definitely still wasn't 10 out of 10, but it was starting to look a lot better than it ever was, which was great news for us.
We are flying through it today. Nikki's made chicken stuffing and brie, I believe is in this, with cranberry.
If you guys haven't done much building before, most buildings in the UK are built with two skins, an inside skin and an outside skin. And then in between them you have a cavity which is filled with this insulation here. It's important you put these red clips on it to pin it back to the inside skin to keep an air gap in that cavity to stop moisture getting from the outside to the inside. A very niche but important point.
Nick, how's this mat?
You're getting there, girl, you're getting there. Well done.
Mick was starting to hopefully get a bit more impressed with us because when he started out we were pretty useless, but he was doing one wall while we were powering on with the other, knocking up all of the muck for us. Muck is just kind of the mortar that goes between the bricks. Above our openings we then installed these catnick lintels which basically sit above openings and allow you to lay bricks on top of them. These are very important, otherwise the bricks would just fall down on your head above the doors. But they were pretty easy to install, so that was good news. And the sun was coming out, so we were getting away with it here, or so we thought.
Fucking hell, that was close.
I can't believe that. What's just happened, Haz?
We've had a big hailstorm, but we're back on track. We're going to start laying again and see what we can do.
We got a quick humble reminder that we were renovating in the middle of winter, but the insulation was going in and the outside skin was going up by us, and we were feeling pretty good about it at this point. I mean, every day was pretty similar. This took us a good, God, I'm hazarding a guess here, but I reckon it was a good couple of weeks of bricklaying and kind of insulating and all of that stuff. It doesn't take as long as you might think, to be fair. On goes the big steel that sits above our bifold doors at the back. We had many hands help us lift this one on, and that went on a breeze as well, and we just bricklayed above it. Anyway, it was now time for the next step in this process.
And that is the roof.
The roof.
The roof?
Roof.
The roof.
We started by bringing all of our timber to the back of the house, and these rafters, I believe off the top of my head, were 8 by 2 inches, so they were nice and thick rafters. You could literally build a house on top of these. But these just slot into place nice and easily on top of the wall plates that we'd installed on top of the inside skin of our brick wall earlier. After building this structure, we then started thinking about the sky lantern that we were fitting in the middle of our extension, and started studying out for that as well and hanging joists off of it. It was all pretty self-explanatory. Anyone can do this. Honestly, I promise you, you can do this if you're thinking about doing a flat roof. They're doable. Then all the joists were in place. It was time to think about our oversight, I believe it's called, which goes below your floor just to stop any growth growing. So we just did a concrete base down there. Pretty laboursome, but pretty straightforward and just a grueling day, really. But then it got onto the more technical stuff of building the top layer of our roof. Now the first thing that goes on is furrings, and these are basically to allow a slope on the flat roof so all of the water runs off. You then do a sheet of OSB layer, which was wet and cold, and Nick was a little bit scared.
How do you feel up here?
I felt really nervous at first, but now I feel fine. Now I'm up here, I'm feeling like a bit of a warrior.
Yeah?
Especially because it's raining. And because we're working, I'm not even feeling cold, so I feel like a bit of a badass bitch.
Damn, it feels good to be a gangster.
You're like a hot, wet mess.
Baby.
Now it gets to a bit more of the technical bit. We were studying out our fascias, and it's worth mentioning that we were building a warm flat roof, meaning the insulation sits on top of this first layer of OSB. It's a lot easier to do, I'd be honest with you, because you don't have to cut up all the insulation. But it does create a problem where you have a really tall roof. We also started studying out for our sky lantern, making sure that the frame went well above our insulation layer, which we were beginning to put down now, but first a damp-proof membrane. Honestly, I thoroughly enjoyed building this roof. I thought it was coming together really quick. I mean, obviously this is very sped up footage, but really satisfying job for anyone to do. I don't know why, but I clearly do love building a flat roof, so give it a go. Anyway, then top layer of OSB on top of that, which was the exact same as the bottom layer, but just you got to do it the same again and build a little sandwich. And then you are on to your final layer, which we decided to use EPDM, which is definitely a more DIY finish than the kind of single ply membrane stuff, but also a lot cheaper, and you can do it yourself. And it was a really good product.
I'm gonna have to ride the primer on the feet. Oh.
Me and Alfie didn't really do our research on exactly how to install it properly, hence our kind of naivety in this area and slipping around on it, but it is a great product, I promise you. And this was all done in just a day, this top layer, and it was watertight. And then the sky lantern went in, which was beautiful. It's added so much light to the room below. Without that, the room would have been super dark, so we're super chuffed we did that. First time either of us have done anything like that, and it went on pretty easily in the end, a bit of a breeze. Started installing some of the fascia boards, which, yeah, because we went for a warm roof, you can see that these fascia boards are huge. Which is fine. I mean, we're going to make it look more traditional, make it look a bit quirky, but that is one of the negatives of having a warm roof. On the note of insulation, it was then time to insulate the whole floor, which was a tedious job because we had to fit it in between the joists, as you can see, and get it so snug that it doesn't fall down. Not an easy one. Then just a top layer of flooring, and then removing this window which connected our old utility room to our kitchen, and that meant the return of Nikki the Brickie. Nikki likes to think she's a bit of a bricklayer. I'm not too sure she's a qualified one, but she's passionate about her bricks, and that is what we love. YouTube's favourite bricklayer, I like to think, but I guess I can say that because it's not self-proclaimed. Her finish still leaves a little bit to be desired, but God does she put some effort in. A quick bit of plasterboarding in the kitchen diner extension. Now this really changes the room from like a building site into beginning to look like an actual livable space, which is a crazy time. Obviously before this we've had a first fix electrics done, which we didn't do ourselves. We spent about £7,000, I believe, on whole electrics for the whole house, so not so bad. But this is a really satisfying job, but also very labour intensive. Bear that in mind if you're ever doing dot and dab. Knocking up that adhesive that you use to glue it to the wall is pretty intense. You need a lot of it. And luckily we had a plasterboard lifter to help us do the roof and to screw all of these in, because otherwise there would have been a lot of hands above the head arguments going on. This I could not recommend enough, honestly, that tool. Can't remember the official name of it. I'll call it a plasterboard lifter. Definitely get one of them if you're doing a big room like this with high ceilings. Couldn't recommend it enough. So this is the point when I'm going to talk to you about costs, because this extension, before plastering, cost us a grand total in materials of £22,908. That's not just materials, that is including a bit of money for the bricklayer as well, a bit of money here and there. But £22,908 has got us to this point on the extension. If you guys are thinking about doing an extension, this is a 35.5 square metre extension, so I think it's not bad going. I mean, let us know in the comments if you think we've spent too much on this point, but I like to think it's pretty good. We've done a lot of the labour ourselves, so definitely have kept the costs down, I somewhat think. But after a plaster and a paint, the room is pretty transformed now. You can see it really starting to come together, and the vision is coming to life.
So the next thing we cracked on with was the underfloor heating. Now this was really important to us because we love the idea of having warm feet, especially when we've got tiles underneath them. And again, we DIY'd this all ourselves. We actually used a company called Wonder, who basically make it really super simple for you and kind of tell you exactly where you need to lay your pipes. So that is what we did, and it was very simple. Now moving on to our tiles. Now we had these beautiful farmhouse tiles. They're kind of like a creamy colour, and I was going for that sort of country core cottage vibe here, and I think these tiles really show that. But when we laid this first row of tile, we came to realise that the floor was a little bit out of level. So on one side we were doing really thick muck, and on the other side it was basically touching the floor. So we screeded one side of the floor, and that basically brought it up to where we needed it to be. And that meant we could continue with tiling this floor. And this was actually quite hard because the tiles were so heavy, and we still needed quite a lot of tile adhesive under the right side of all of these tiles. But slowly but surely, after a few different sessions coming and going back from sort of tiling and then doing a different project and coming back to complete the fixes, we ended up doing it. And of course we did crack a few tiles.
Oh my god. I'm done.
Split it.
I jumped on it and it split.
And that kind of was a bit of a breaking point for Harry, as you can see. And here's a little spoiler of what they look like with the kitchen. But anyway, as for the kitchen, we got our kitchens from DIY Kitchens, and we wanted a really grand big kitchen with a huge island in the middle, enough to seat 6 stools around them. For us, the kitchen really is the heart of the home, and we absolutely love cooking, so this was really important to us. As you can see, we basically popped all of these units in place. They came already made, so we didn't need to sort of flat pack them and make them from scratch, which was amazing. And we went for the colour Muscle, and the design is called the Helmsley unit from DIY Kitchens.
Spin the bottle.
Oh, it's landing on us. Mistletoe.
This is why people hate us.
So yeah, as you can see, we were getting a little bit stir crazy. Anyway, as for the TV unit, we saw this one in the DIY Kitchens showroom, and we thought we would try and recreate it in the other half of our kitchen. Because we're planning on either having a dining table here or a little L sort of sofa area, because we kind of want it to be quite cozy, and we've already got 6 seats around the island, so it might make sense to make this more of a cozy area. So we were just basically adding all of the trim and all of the cornices. The Helmsley range have the most beautiful detailing, as you can see, and we were pretty happy with the result of this. Of course, a TV media unit is not complete without a TV, so we popped one of those on the walls too. And then it was time for Origin to come in and fit our bifold doors. And we went for these sort of Soho contemporary bifold doors, and I think they worked really, really well with the space, especially because we went for a black island. As you can see, these 2 walls were still unplastered because we wanted to get these doors in before plastering. So this is what they look like sort of with the kitchen in situ, and they're just stunning. And then it was time for the quartz to go in, and as you can see, we went for this beautiful quartz with a beveled edge. It's got sort of veining in it that's silver and gold, and we could not be happier with how this kitchen is looking. Obviously, it's still far from complete. We haven't grouted the floor, we haven't put any pelmets on. All of the light fixtures still need to go on, all of the cornices need to go on still. There's a lot more that needs to get done. But for the time being, whilst we're living on site, it means we're able to cook all of our meals here, and that's so important to us. And as you can see, if you've got some vision, you can imagine how this is going to look.
Now, the latest project we've taken on is by far the biggest, and that is turning this bungalow into a 2-storey house, with the addition of 2 front dormers shown in the picture here, and then 1 dormer at the rear, which is going to match the existing flat roof dormer and just make the upstairs a whole lot bigger. Now, when you say the words a whole lot bigger, you know that means it's going to be quite a big project for us to carry out. And first off, we got our report back from our structural engineer, and it turns out we needed to add a total of 13 steels to the house to allow for these dormers. About half of these steels landed on the middle floor between the ground and first floor, which you can see us installing here. And these were going to take the weight of steel posts, which were going to go up into the roof and take the weight of the steels in the ridge and on the edge of the dormers. So these steels needed to be put in right, but luckily Alfie and I have done a few steels now together, and I think we cracked them pretty good in the end. I'll talk about the total cost of steels later as you see the other ones go in, but now it was demolition derby time upstairs. This had been long overdue, and it was time to just get rid of all of the plasterboard and all of the stud walls up there and start going back to that blank canvas space. If you guys don't know what these are that we're installing here, these are called pad stones. You can see us cutting out holes for them in the brickwork, and you basically just pop another stone in there, but it's a stronger stone that has the steel sit directly on top of it. After stripping back a load of floorboards upstairs, which by the way is one of the longest and tedious jobs in the world, we then started to create space for our final steel between the ground and middle floor. Another way we made so much more space upstairs is we took down our chimney breast, because boy it was bulky, and you will not believe how many bricks came out of this thing.
Like, imagine if you slipped down there by accident.
You ain't fitting down there, your head is barely fitting there. Your ears will stop you.
After a bit of light encouragement from Alfie that I wasn't going to die by slipping down the chimney breast, we powered on and started really opening up the space, as you can see. Now, we did consult our structural engineer before doing this, and I definitely recommend doing that before doing a job like this, because they can be tied to the structure of the house. Luckily, ours was not. A very mucky job.
House, yo, steels are here, mate.
And then we were on to the final steel on the ground floor, which we were very excited about, as you can tell, because it looked like a heavy boy. Now, DIYers definitely can do this job, but I would recommend getting someone in with some experience, because this structural work is daunting and has to be done right, but anyone can do it with enough experience and ideally some eyes on it that know what is going on a little bit more. Anyway, back upstairs now, all the steels are in situ, and back onto a very mucky and dusty job of stripping the upstairs. This is a job anyone can definitely do, but would not recommend to a friend because not very fun, I'm going to be honest with you. We were getting bored and tried to make a bit of a light-hearted of the situation though.
How strong do you think they are? Come on, you've been putting on muscle recently.
That does not feel stable.
No, go, 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 go. Alf, do you want to lift?
Oh, go on.
Now with the upstairs stripped, there was another project we had to keep our eyes on, because this porch that we are planning on building at our front door here is going to tie into the new roof we build. Here's some beautiful inspo pics of it here. It's going to be a beaut oak porch. Nikki absolutely loved the idea of doing something like this, and it has paid off, I can tell you. Anyway, that meant we were back onto the mucky job of digging foundations. Now, we couldn't get a digger down to this bottom tier that we built, so it was time to hand dig, which we kind of made a little mistake on, because as far as I'm aware now, building regulations don't apply to external front porches, and we thought they did, and our building regs said to go 1.2 meters, I believe. So we hand dug 1.2 meters of clay, which was a sick joke, and then poured in our own mixed concrete. This took about 25 mixes maybe of concrete and was a good few £100. Back upstairs and back onto the jobs of ripping up floorboards, because we had to double up on some floor joists to add some structure to allow these dormers to sit correct, and for where we wanted our freestanding bath we had to double up on some rafters. Super satisfying here. Scaffolding is going up. This is when the house becomes a building site, and I stay out of the way of that and let them crack on with their job, because I've got an important job on of laying the bottom brick wall of the porch, because I don't know if you saw in the inspo pics, we want the bottom of the porch to be bricked to a certain height and then oak on top of it. Alfie did the other one, and I hate to say it, his was probably a little bit better, and that really does hurt me every time. So bricklaying completed, on to ripping off the roof. This is when things start getting exciting and we start thinking, what the hell have we got ourselves into? But if you're ever stripping a roof, the tiles came off in about 40 minutes. It was more getting rid of them. We just made a pile, and we're going to deal with that later, because I don't even want to think about that right now. Then off came the battens, which were pretty much falling off at this point, and the felt. Nikki tackled the tiles on the back of the house. She's standing on the flat roof of the dormer there that you can see, and that's the one we're eventually going to be expanding to span where we are stripping the tiles there, so it's going to add a whole lot more room upstairs. Anyway, now the rafters started coming off, which was not as easy as it looked, but we started getting the roof down, and we officially now just had a whole sun deck instead of a second floor. So that was interesting to live like that for a good few weeks, sleeping downstairs, exposed to all the elements. Wouldn't really recommend that, but you know, beggars can't be choosers. Now it was time to start fitting these final steels. These steels here are going on the ridge. You can see we called in some help of 2 local carpenters who were fantastic. We just got them in on dailies, and this saved us massively because they knew exactly what they were doing. We were extra hands on site and constantly helping them. There were so many jobs to be done around them. It was definitely a 4 or 5 man job, but they got to do the more technical stuff whilst we kind of boshed all of the work around them and made sure they had all the bits they needed. It's definitely a great way of working if you want to get involved in some DIY, but you think a task might be a little bit too much for you. Hire a professional on a day rate and do all of the work around them, like stripping this flat roof, which was 4 layers of felt, and boy was it heavy. Anyway, now we let the chippies chip, and the chippies were chipping and starting to get these rafters up. The bespoke cuts they have on the end of them, little bit complicated for me and Nick's, but we were helping move all the rafters round, and we were drilling holes between all the treble and double rafters, which we're going to seat our Velux window and our dormer edges. Drilling the holes and bolting them all together, because that is building regs. A good bit of banter on site is always needed. These guys definitely brought the energy, that is for sure.
If you blunted my drill, it'd be an absolute honour. I tell my children, I say, these YouTubers, yeah? Fuck this up. It's mine.
But unfortunately that did not save us when the heavens decided to open on us, and we got very demotivated and worried about the downstairs living situation.
It's fair to say it's absolutely just shat it down. And to be honest, I'm feeling pretty down about it.
But the next day it perked up, and we were back on perky form and boshing the final steel in this house renovation. This is going to take the weight of the new flat roof dormer we've got, and it's probably worth mentioning now that the total steel cost for this renovation, 13 steels in total, was only £2,739, which I think was an absolute bargain, because we got a quote from another company and they quoted us about £1,500 for just 3 of the steels. But me and Dan, the carpenter, boshed out this steel together, and Barney was cracking on getting the rafters ready to sit on top of the flat roof. Now you can see what I mean about them complicated cuts. I mean, now that it's done and we've watched the boys do it, maybe we could have done this whole job of the roof, but it would have taken us double the time and wouldn't have been half as good as a finish. So sometimes it's just worth getting the professionals in, watching them, learning and working around them. One of the jobs Nix and I were constantly doing was unloading timber deliveries from vans and bringing them to the boys, and then they were cutting them and then we were moving them somewhere else. Another more technical job we did was take out some of the bricks because they needed to have obviously a fascia that kind of goes over the brickwork that has a ladder connecting to the original rafters. So we chiseled out all them bricks, as you can see there. And here are the dormers starting to take shape. You can see them on the left there. Anyway, as I mentioned earlier, back onto the brickwork on these fascia boards because we're just supporting around the ladder wooden frame they've built. And here is the dormer in all of its beauty. You can really see it coming together from the road, which is so exciting. Honestly, every time I look at it now, I still can't quite believe that that is our house that we have changed from that crusty bungalow we got 8 months ago. It's a madness. And here is the dormer extension on the back. You can see it's a flat roof dormer that is going to have a bathroom in it for the second bedroom upstairs. Just the final layer of bricks now on this porch before we start installing the oak above it, and that's because before we had the engineered bricks for the rest of the courses with holes in, and we wanted a nice proper finish on the top with real bricks, so just did one more course there and installed a plate to take the bottom of the oak that you can see on the left of the frame there. That's just to stop the water getting up into the oak, basically. You can actually see the porch now on the bottom left of that shot, which is crazy. It looks beautiful. I mean, it was hard to film because there was so much scaffolding around it, but it was now time to felt and batten. Nikki and I could have maybe done this job by ourselves as well, but we called in an experienced roofer just for a day, and he helped us fly through this roof. We got it felt and battened all in one day between the three of us, which was an amazing bit of work, and you can really see it starting to become more of a home and less of a building site by the minute. Now, we worked out in last week's video that I think this whole roof project alone, up to felt and battening and the price of tiles, has cost us around £8,000 to £9,000 in timber. That's for all the rafters, for the OSB board going on this flat roof, for the insulation, for the tiles. There's a lot of big spends in there that it just starts really adding up, but still a significant amount less than our extension, which was interesting. So maybe it's cheaper to build upwards rather than outwards. But that's just on our experience. I can imagine every site is different. Starting to build the flat roof now. We're going for a cold flat roof this time, not a warm flat roof, which was just a decision we kind of made last minute. What you might be able to see in the left top there, crazy stat, is that only 52% of people that watch our videos are actually subscribed, and I bet it's going to be less that watch this time lapse. So if you guys do fancy subscribing, please do join us for the journey, because there's plenty more of this still to come, and it's weekly and fun uploads. I promise you that for free. There are so many other jobs though that we've done along this way in this past 8 months that we haven't mentioned. Like we did a whole fence line. And that digging fence holes, by the way, no easy task. We've kind of got this whole back area ready for a patio because we used all the brickworks from our chimney. As you can see here, we broke every brick up to use as hardcore for under our patio because we didn't want to lug all the bricks to the front, and it just made perfect sense. But yeah, just so much time, love and effort has gone into this renovation so far, and we've been so chuffed to share the journey with everyone that's watched along. And if you're new here, come and join the journey now. It's definitely not too late. You can see the back garden starting to take shape. It just needs them finishing touches. It might not look like it, but it does. Obviously, I have mentioned that we've been living on site this whole time, and it's not for the faint-hearted if you guys are thinking about doing a renovation project of this scale, because this is the room we currently live in. I mean, we stripped the wallpaper and kind of got it plastered, got the first fix electrics done, put a temporary carpet in, and that is where we currently reside, evening in, evening out. I don't have any regrets with this as such. I absolutely love living in our home, and it just means that you can wake up every day on site and be ready to go. Okay, so a very important part that a lot of you might be here for is the total spend on this renovation so far. Now, so many of you guys were guessing in the comments of last week's vlog as to how much we have spent, and we can reveal that the person on the screen now was the closest to getting our total spend right, because our total spend to date in the last 8 months is a whopping £69,116.74. That is a whole lot of money considering we've done most of the work ourselves.
Oh my goodness, we're poor.
Help us! Jokes aside, we have absolutely no regrets. This house is really starting to come together.
It's crazy just watching back this video and realising how far we've come, because it feels like it was only a couple weeks ago that we were doing the retaining walls for the front garden and trying to get our driveway done. Just crazy how quick the time flies, and we have absolutely loved this renovation.
We've loved it so far, and there is so much more to come of this renovation. So if you guys are first time viewers here, then make sure you do hit that subscribe button, because every Sunday we will put up a weekly upload. And we do put a lot of pressure on ourselves to make sure there is a lot of content for you to watch on them Sundays. We crank it hard every week, don't we, Nix?
We do. We're ill all the time, because all we want to do is make sure we've got enough progress in these videos. So you know what? If you're thinking about it and you're a little bit tempted to, just do it. Press that subscribe button, and we will see you every single Sunday from now on.
But thank you again for watching this video to this point, and leave a comment down below on why you guys have watched this video. Are you guys thinking of doing a renovation yourself? Are you already in the middle of one? Or are you just maybe dreaming and planning about a future renovation? Let us know in the comments below, because we love hearing about all of your renovation stories.
We really do. And with that, we will see you next Sunday.
We will see you next Sunday. We hope you have an awesome week.
Bye.